So now that we have figured out how to find the A, the K, the H, the C, all those things, now we're actually going to graph it ourselves, okay? So I will do one. You'll notice these two, let me zoom that in, are exactly the same. But all of these are in radian mode, and all of these are in degree mode. So the shape should look the same. But the difference between radian and degree is radian is your x, that means pi. Degree is your theta, and that means that your x-axis will be different in that capacity, okay? So what do I need to do? And we're only dealing with cosine right now, okay? Is I need to find my amplitude. My amplitude is right here, that's 1. And then my period from hump to hump is 360, nope, 2 pi, because we're in radian mode. Okay, so I know when I'm dealing with cosine that my first value is 1. That means that's my top. I also know that the distance, because it's amplitude from here to here, is 1, and the distance from here to here is 1. So that means that's an important value right there. So, because the total from top to bottom is 2. So now I know that the next top, which I could put like right over here, I'll just fake it right now, needs to be a total of 2 pi. So this value right here needs to be 2 pi. So that if this is the top of the hump, it's equidistant. Well, that means what would be halfway? Halfway between 0 and 2 pi is pi. And then halfway between 0 and pi is pi over 2. And then this is 3 pi over 2. You'll memorize this. This is really 90, 180, 270, 360. So watch this. Top, next one, middle, next one, bottom, next one, middle, next one, top. So if you look, I've graphed an entire cycle. Top, middle, bottom, middle, top. So if I wanted to continue that on this side, instead of pi over 2, it'd be negative pi over 2. Negative pi, negative 3 pi over 2, negative 2 pi. Because just like a wave, it continues, right? I'm going to do this. So if I'm going to continue, this is my top. Next comes middle. Next, this is my next value, bottom. Next value, middle. Next value, top. I have now graphed 2 cycles. The distance from one hump to the next is 2 pi, which is my period. If you look here, the distance between negative pi to pi, so negative 180 plus 180 is 360. The distance from here to here is pi, plus pi is 2 pi. So bottom to bottom is also equidistant. So what is the only difference between the first one and the second one? Well, this one, there's still 1, there's still negative 1. Still, we start here. Still, the A and the K are the same, except this time your K is 360 degrees. So that means my next top hump there should be 360. So now if I go halfway, that's 180. If I go halfway, that's 90. Halfway between 180 and 360, 270. So now if I'm going to graph, this is my first point. Then if it's top, what comes next? Middle. What comes next? Bottom. What comes next? Middle. What comes next? Top. I have now graphed 1 cycle. If I wanted to graph another cycle, I could go backwards. Negative 90, negative 180, negative 270, negative 360. Middle. Bottom. Middle. Top. So what does this mean? What does this mean for you? What that means is that if you were to find the cosine of pi over 2, it's 0, because this is the point, pi over 2 comma 0. If you were to find the cosine of 2 pi, it's 1, because this is the value 2 pi comma 1. If I asked you in your calculator to find the cosine of negative 180, it would be negative 1. because this is the value negative 80, 180, negative 1. If I asked you to find the cosine of positive 180, it would also be negative 1, because this is the point 180, comma, negative 1. Okay? So now that we did that, let's try these two. What is the only difference between these two? This is in radian mode, and this is in degree mode. Okay? So, let's do this. What's the amplitude? 1, which means the amplitude is 1. What's the period? Whatever's in front of those things. 2 pi, 360. They are equivalent, just written in different ways. English, Spanish. Okay? It's different. Then, the one thing that's new here compared to the other one is the phase shift. That's your C, not a straight shooter, pi. Not a straight shooter, pi. Oops, just kidding. 180. So how does that affect our graph? Okay, well the amplitude is 1. So that means that's 1 top. The distance from here to here is 1, so that's middle. And this is your bottom. And still, what's the period? 2 pi. That means from one hump to the next is 2 pi. Okay? And I probably should have done this one in pencil. So then I get 2 pi. Half of that is pi. Half of that is pi over 2. Half of that is 3 pi over 2. The problem is, though, and I should get some white out, is that normally this would be top, middle, bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom. The problem is, though, is that it's phase shifting. So that means my top isn't at 1. My top is over here at pi. It's horizontally shifting. So that means if that's my top, 3 pi over 2 is my middle, which means 2 pi negative 1 is my bottom. And then if I continue, what would happen next if I'm going backwards, right? That means if this is top, this is middle, this is bottom. And then if I continue, negative pi over 2, negative pi, negative 3 pi over 2, negative 2 pi. Bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom. I have now graphed 2 cycles. Distance from here to here, 2 pi. Distance from here to here, 2 pi, equidistant. So let's see if we can do that over here. 1, negative 1, 2, 3, 4. Hump to hump, 360, 180, 90, 270. Negative 90, negative 180, negative 270, negative 360. Normally, I would start here, but they're asking me to phase shift. So I'm going to highlight that because that's really our new top. Okay? So they're saying, hey, the top of the hump shouldn't be there at 0. It should be over here at 180. That should be your top. Now, if that's my top, what comes next? Middle. So, middle. What comes next? Bottom. If I'm going to go backwards, that means what's next? Middle. What's next? Bottom. Middle. Top. Middle. Bottom. If this part is confusing you, please make sure you ask me questions. The distance from one hump to the next, 360. Distance from one hump to the next, 360. Okay, hopefully this is making some sense here. Okay, so A equals, K equals, C equals. So how is this a little bit different? This time, my amplitude is 3. Oops, I'm just going to go like this, 3. So if this was normally 1, and this was normally negative 1, which you can't see very well, it's going to be 2, 3. So this will be the top of my hump. And then I should have done this better. Let's see, I'll do 1, 2, 3. So that'll be 3, and that'll be negative 3. Let me get my white out. Okay. So that means it's 3 times as tall. My period is still, well, it's the same thing. It's 360 or 2 pi. But I have a phase shift. So I have to remember that phase shift right there, which is pi. Okay. So let me do my 2 pi, pi, pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, negative pi over 2, negative pi, negative 3 pi over 2, negative 2 pi. Okay, So the top of my hump normally would be at 1, but because I made it 3 times as tall, it's here. But is that my top? No. Because there was a phase shift, my actual top is right there. So that should not be my top. Now, what does that mean for my amplitude? My amplitude distance from my top to my middle is 3. So that means I need to go top is with this one. That means this is middle. And that means way down here is bottom. It is 3 times as tall. And some of you go, it doesn't look 3 times as tall. I know, I'm not drawing it to scale. I'm not very good at that. So if this is pi, the next one would be negative pi over 2, top, middle. Would the bottom be at 1? No, the bottom would be at 3, because the distance from here to here is 3. And then now if I'm at middle, or bottom, middle, top, middle, bottom. So hopefully it kind of looks 3 times as tall. All right? So if you look, the distance from here to here, still 2 pi. The distance from here to here, still 2 pi. Okay? Now this one is in degree mode, but it's a little bit different, isn't it? The amplitude is 3, but this time the period, and is it 360 or 2 pi? Since it's theta, it's 360, so 360 divided by 1/2. If you're dividing by half, you're really multiplying by 2, which means your period is 720. Okay? So that means the distance from one hump to the next would be 720. So what if I played this game where I did the whole 360, 180, 90, 270? And let's say this is 1, this is -1. We'll make this 3, and this -3. There is no phase shift, so this is the top of my hump. The problem is, though, is the next top isn't at 360. It's over here. If we're adding 90, 450, add 90, 540, add 90, 630, and then this is 720. So that means my next top is here at 720. So if this is a top and this is a top, and I go halfway, right, I'm not going to say my middle is here because I have to go twice the distance. So my middle's at 180. Skip. My bottom is at 360. See how it's halfway, bottom. And that means my middle is at 540. So it actually is looking horizontally wider. Remember, when you're with the X, you are not a straight shooter. So 1/2 is really 2. It's twice the distance from here to here. Twice the distance from here to here. Twice the distance from here to here. Okay? Let's do another one. It was supposed to be on the next page, so let me see. Let me write this. Y equals. Let me see what the time is. I'll rewrite it, and then I think I'm going to pause it, and we'll do the next one on the next video. Let's see. 1/2 x minus pi plus 4. Okay, so on the next video, you're going to give me the amplitude. You're going to give me the period. You're going to give me the phase shift. You're going to give me the vertical shift, and I think that covers everything.